It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be here with all of you today with such a committed, engaged, energetic group of Aam Aadmi supporters and volunteers of UK. I'm sure that all of you know about what was the genesis of this whole anti-corruption movement, why it was needed to be launched, and why eventually we were forced to take this turn to making it a political party, and where we go from here. But let me just briefly go through it once again with you. See, corruption in India has become so deep-rooted, all-pervasive, and so insidious that it has not merely led to the draining away of public funds which could be used for public welfare. It has led to much more serious, it has had much more serious impacts. It has in fact allowed, or rather promoted, the adoption of policies which are not geared towards public interest, but which are geared towards promoting the commercial interests of some large corporations. Therefore, it has had the effect of distorting public policies and deflecting them from public interest to the commercial interests of a few corporations. It has led to the creation of a mafia in this country which has become a huge threat to Indian democracy. Today it is not, we just think that it is these politicians. Of course, these politicians are also mafia. They are thoroughly corrupt, they are engaged in all kinds of criminal activities, not all of them, but many of them, indeed most of them, of these established political parties. But there is another mafia which sits on top of these politicians, and that is the corporate mafia in the country. To illustrate that, you just need to listen to two conversations in Neera Radia's tapes. Neera Radia, as many of you would know, was the corporate lobbyist for Reliance and Tata's. Her conversations, her phones were tapped by the Income Tax Department. 5,800 conversations were recorded over about a year, out of which about 800 conversations were leaked to the media by some whistleblower. Among those conversations, of course, each one of those conversations is quite revealing about how the country is being run, who is really running the country, and how these corporates are not only controlling the politicians and decide who should be in the cabinet, what portfolios they should have. They also control the media, they also control the judiciary, they also control the bureaucracy, etc. And they also decide what kind of policies and laws would be made. There are two conversations which reveal how these parties are in their pockets. One is a conversation between Ranjan Bhattacharya and Neera Radia. Ranjan Bhattacharya was, or is, the son-in-law of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was the BJP Prime Minister. In that conversation, Ranjan Bhattacharya is heard telling Neera Radia, he says, I met Mukesh Ambani the other day, and I told him that I said to him that he must be very happy because all his people have been included in the cabinet. and they have got whatever portfolio he wanted. So he said, हाँ भाई, अब तो कांग्रेस पार्टी अपनी ही दुकान है. So he just nonchalantly said that, well, Congress is in my pocket now, and therefore, obviously, the ministers and their portfolios would be decided as per my wishes. There is another conversation between Neera Radia and N.K. Singh. N.K. Singh used to be the finance secretary, then first the revenue secretary, then the finance secretary, then the member of the planning commission, and is now a member of parliament. In this, N.K. Singh is telling Radia that these days I am working on this retrospective tax concession bill that Pranab Mukherjee has brought in parliament, which will give a huge retrospective tax concession to Reliance, which he calls as his company. Of course, Reliance is not his company, he is a Reliance man. He is owned by Reliance rather than the company being owned by him. So he says that he is seeing a great danger because he has heard that Arun Shourie is going to oppose this bill in the Raj Sabha. And he says that if Arun Shourie opposes this bill, it will not be passed because Pranab Mukherjee will not have the courage to get this bill passed if the BJP opposes it. So then they discuss what can be done to avert this catastrophe. And then they discuss and decide that, well, what they can do is to get the BJP leadership to replace Arun Shourie with Venkaiah Naidu. Venkaiah Naidu was the BJP president earlier, and they say that they talk very casually about Venkaiah Naidu कि वो तो अपना ही आदमी है, उसके पास तो हम उस आदमी को फला बाला सुब्रमण्यम को भेज देंगे, और बाला सुब्रमण्यम इज अ रिलायंस ऑफिसर, वो उसको पूरा समझा देगा और जो उसको समझाएगा वही बोलेगा पार्लियामेंट. And so they discuss and decide that this is indeed the best strategy, and this is precisely what happened. Arun Shourie, in a recent interview with Karan Thapar, acknowledged that this is precisely what happened. He says that he was to speak on this bill in the Raj Sabha. He was going to oppose it. At the very last minute, the night before he was to speak, he received a call from the BJP leadership that he will not be speaking. Instead of him, Venkaiah Naidu will be speaking. And Venkaiah Naidu went and spoke and supported the bill, and thereafter Arun Shourie said that, well, what could I do? I couldn't really oppose the bill after that, because Venkaiah Naidu set the party line and the bill was passed. So what this shows you is that it is not merely the Congress which is Ambani ki dukaan, it is also the BJP which is Ambani ki dukaan, and all these parties have become puppets in the hands of corporates like Ambani or Tata, etc. And that is why, as I was saying, one of the most insidious impacts of corruption has been that public policies, laws like this retrospective tax concession bill, or policies like the mining policy, the nuclear policy, etc., are all being decided not by looking at whether they will serve public interest or not, but whether they will serve the commercial interests of these corporations.